Hi there, folks. My name's NovaWing24, and we are back here at Flight Sim Expo 2023 with another epic interview, which is a very special one for me. We are here with Callum from FS Elite. Callum, it is great to see you again here, my friend.
It's great to see you again. It's been a few years now, but we're back finally in person, and I get to see your lovely face.
Oh, thank you. But folks, it is actually genuinely great here for me. It's a real honour and privilege for me to be able to interview Callum, being, that Callum is from, the founder of FS Elite, the best and the greatest news site for simulation world ever.
Simply not true, but thank you. No, really pleased to be here. I mean, we're here as a media partner. We're here every year as a media partner, and our job has always been to provide as much coverage as we possibly can at these shows, and of course, across the entire flight simulation community as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Great to talk to you. Great to talk to the developers. Great to talk to the exhibitors, the attendees. Like just speaking to everyone and finding out, what their vibe and what their feel is for flight simulation at the moment.
And being a media partner and being media, as I said, being a news agency that you are, obviously you don't have the development side of things, but so what's your thought on because we went all these years the COVID times where we didn't have the chance to be in person. Do you feel that in-person events like this still have a place? Are they important? Should they be the future?
Yes. I mean, that is the answer. To elaborate on that, and we were saying earlier on off camera, I've had this conversation with everyone, and I've had this conversation with everyone for years. In-person events are important because it allows you to connect with people. You get to engage and you get to see people. And so there are two sides to this, and it's the same with every event. So firstly, you have the hands-on sessions with all the stuff, because a lot of the things here at the show are physical hardware products. You can talk about them, you can describe them, you can video them, you can have content creators like myself and yourself doing all these cool unboxings and videos and stuff, but until you actually get your hands on it, you don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know if it's going to suit you, if it's going to be right for you, and this show is perfect just to do that. The second side of it for me is all about the in-person thing and actually engaging with people. And we were, again, talking about this off camera just now, but, with COVID, obviously, in order to stay safe, a lot of things went online, and you had to do Zoom calls, team meetings, and stuff like that. And I know a lot of events and trade shows tried this whole online only thing. But again, you don't have opportunities to then leave, because once you leave the show floor here, many of us go back to the hotel rooms, or go out for food and drink and stuff like that, and that's where conversation still happens. When you have online things, those conversations seem to always be very business focused, and that's fine. That's kind of what we're here for.
Kind of what we're here for, yeah.
But at the same time, I find the best ideas come over, glass of wine, having some food with people, because you're not in that environment anymore. I feel like you can kind of relax a little bit, and that's where you build bonds. That's where you form relationships that last for lifetimes, and that's exactly how kind of we met. We had dinner and we had stuff, and here we are 6 years later, still talking and doing the same thing.
It's been great for you, because for Callum and I, we've been able to see the evolution of expos here in America. I've never been fortunate enough to be able to get to the European ones, but be able to see them evolve has been great. And exactly echoing what you're saying, it's the relationships that you build and the sense of community. We always had the community, the online community, but being able to actually put aside those differences and find out that there's a real human behind the developer. That the person that you fly with online, likes the same sporting team that you do, stuff like that.
And that's the other important thing is you see online sometimes very negative comments, but you come here and everyone's super positive and appreciative of what you do, and they have nothing but amazing things to say. Of course, there's still feedback, and that's what I think we as a media partner value. That's what the developers value. But I think actually seeing them in person helps to remove that kind of keyboard warrior type of barrier. And when it comes down to communication, it's the body language that you read most of anyway. So sometimes you can read text and totally misunderstood what that person meant, or maybe they couldn't really convey it in the way that they needed it to do. Ultimately, being in person just allows those conversations to be so much easier and so much more fun.
So yeah, and it's that fun aspect, and the sharing the jokes, sharing the comments, they really bring that up. I do want to take a slight detour away from FS Elite for a second, because of course you're heavily involved with SoFly as well.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about watching SoFly, because SoFly has contributed, much like FS Elite has, to so much of the community, helping guide many of our newcomers to the hobby, embracing them and sort of helping them out. Where is SoFly at? Where is it heading?
That's very interesting. So, to be clear, I've always kept FS Elite and SoFly very separate.
Yep. No,
I know
absolutely.
I'm like that middle person, and I kind of like look after both. But from a kind of like that media perspective,
Yep.
they stay very apart. If you go on FS Elite, you will not find any articles about stuff that I've released, because I think keep it separate.
No, and that, can I just take a moment to say that the integrity that you've always shown with that has always been very admirable, with doing that, by saying, and very conscious of that and not wanting to send the wrong message. So, respect for you for doing that.
Thank you. And that's, we've always said, I'll get to your question.
Yep.
I've always just said the integrity for us has always been number one. That is our priority, putting the community first, and what we say online is genuinely what we think, and not paid, blah, 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 blah. But yeah. So to answer your question about SoFly. So yeah, we started with a guide. It came to me, I was very lucky through the fact I was able to try Microsoft Flight Simulator very early with you.
Yeah. 2019 over in Renton. Yep. They still didn't put the hotel in.
But we knew from that moment that this was going to be an opportunity for brand new people to come into the flight sim community. So I was like, well, there needs to be something. There needs to be some way to kind of get people from who's just installed it all the way to like flying circuits and airliners and everything else. I know people are like, I can just go on YouTube and watch a tutorial, and that's great. Those are great. But there's still a market out there, I feel, for people who just want to sit down, flick through some pages and actually read something, or take their time with it, because you and I both know that different content creators have different pace. They go at different paces, or maybe they go in a style that maybe someone doesn't like. So this was just another opportunity and another medium to help guide and train and educate people with Microsoft Flight Sim. And then as I was doing that, another idea came to mind, all these weather presets. And again, I know you can make them in the sim, but I made 80 of them, saved people a bit of time, really cool presets. And people loved it. And I was so surprised, because I thought, the community, they can make their own. But no, there was a big audience out there. And again, the market is very different now than what it was 3-4 years ago. And just really from every time I seem to build a product, as I'm kind of in the midst of building it, another idea comes that kind of stems off of it. So then we had Storm for the hurricanes and stuff through for the sim, and then I did some like discovery flights, because we found some really cool tools to make AI audio. So I was like, I can do discovery things. Yeah. So every product I've made kind of seems to want to then build off or branch into something that I think is cool. And I know that these products aren't for everyone. They're not for core simmers necessarily, but there is still a massive audience out there who seem to love it. I mean, my shout out to my mum and dad, who've done an amazing job this weekend at being running the SoFly booth on my behalf. And they've had so many people come up to them and tell them just how good the products are, how much they enjoy them. And again, I try and balance a bit of education and a bit of fun, because that's what flight simulation is for me anyway. It's for fun.
Yeah. And I love how you ran that out with the fun part, because if we're not having fun, why are we doing this? If we're not enjoying it, why are we doing it? And I love how you appreciate that. And again, I feel that many of our community here appreciates that what is fun for one simmer may not be for somebody else, but they are both equally valid ways of simming.
And that's always been my perspective on it. And I've read the comments, this is rubbish, this isn't for me. And I'm like, I know it's not for you. But there are obviously people out there who do enjoy it. And likewise, if people have feedback about what that product is meant to be, and there is constructive feedback from that, then of course I take it into account and I release updates. Like the guide, for example, I've done 20 updates to that thing now. Yeah. So it went from 120 pages, that was meant to be it, to now over 600. So there's for some reason there's still so much more to talk about. So we've got tutorials in there and everything. But yeah, I'm always listening. and I totally understand kind of the limitations of what the audience for our type of product is.
And I suppose, okay, and thanks very much for giving that so far. It's been great watching it grow. And again, as I feel it hits that niche of people who are beginning and people who want, a bit of a stepping stone into being, giving some ideas on what to do. So I want to use it as a bit of to swing back now to more the FS Elite, the news sort of thing now. So obviously, Microsoft made, their bombshell announcement of, hey, here's 2024.
Yeah.
We've got X-Plane 12's just come out, and, the team at Laminar aren't being slow. The team at Lockheed Martin made their announcement yesterday that Prepared V6 is coming. So I'm sort of curious about where you see the environment at the moment, because, as you and I know, and many of our audience knows, we spent so many years where it was FSX, maybe X-Plane, depending if you were an engineer or not. So where do you see us going, and how do you see us all cohabitating into the future?
That is a really good question, and one I think my perspective on it changes constantly, because every time I think I'm starting to figure it out, something happens. For example, V6 was announced yesterday.
Yep.
So it's really interesting, because I'm under this weird impression that, and I think we've seen it, everyone's very competitive in this industry, and actually coming here, I think reduces some of that thought process, because everyone's aware of all the different simulators. Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Laminar, and then also I just want to make a shout out to Infinite Flight. You've got GOFS, different types of sims as well. They're all aware. They're all hyper aware. I think what has been great with Microsoft coming back into the market in a way that they has helped springboard this entire community to now have millions and millions and millions of more people just aware, not even interested, just aware of flight simulation as a thing.
Yes.
So, getting my haircut, and I tell my barber about flight simulation, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about now. 2-3 years ago, if I had that same conversation, he'd be like, well, what's that?
What's that? Yeah.
So, the fact that flight simulation is now a common knowledge thing to an extent, I think is a fantastic thing. And I think that really benefits all the other simulator platforms as well, because ultimately, the more people that are interested in flight simulation, the more they can then start to figure out, well, this is what I'm really super interested in.
Yep.
So I'm interested in combat. So now I'm going to maybe diverge off to DCX, because that's where actually the best combat stuff is.
Yep.
I'm actually more interested in kind of getting my license, maybe doing it all at home, so I need to have something that's FAA certified.
Yep.
So now I'm going to branch off into X-Plane.
Yep.
And I think that is where flight simulation is going. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator is market dominant. I think that's fair to say.
Yep.
But I think it's also fair to then say, just because they're market dominant doesn't mean everything else is irrelevant, because I think they will all have you will find what you're interested in, because now you've experienced it for the first time in people on Xbox, for example, flying around, trying my mission packs, and actually going, do you know what, I really like the A320, so now I'm going to buy more sophisticated software. Actually, I want to now get the hardware, but that hardware is only compatible with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. That's what I've seen here today. That's what I've spoken to about with developers, and I think we're just, with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, just brings it all back into the conversation again.
Yeah.
And yes, it was shown off at a gaming event, but who cares? It's shown off to millions of people, so that's beneficial for everyone.
And I really want to pick up on that, because I know a lot of people have made comments and questions about why are they announcing at E3 or Summer Games Festival as it's known now. Why are they not announcing at this dedicated event? And I want to touch on what you said before. It's about it's bringing new people into the hobby. As much as we love our community, we're a niche. Whereas somewhere like Summer Games Festival and E3, you're bringing that passion, our hobby, to millions of more people to bring them in.
I totally agree. And we had this conversation happen 3 years ago in 2019 when we're all in Orlando and it was announced and we just finished Flight Sim Expo. And we were like, why couldn't they do it at this show? And the answer is because there was only 1,000 people at that show versus millions of people at home watching. Now, if you're a multi-billion-dollar company, you're going to want to try and reach the masses.
Yes.
But that benefits us because if it was announced at Expo, then you're not going to have that community. You're not going to have that conversation. My barber wouldn't have known what was going on, and it would just be an uphill battle. I think the biggest difference that this year, or this announcement happened 2 weeks ago with FS24, a lot of the questions the community had were answered a couple of hours after. I think the biggest thing was like backwards compatibility with third-party stuff. And those questions were answered very quickly. It took a few hours, but they were answered. Whereas when FS 2020 was announced, we didn't have any answers for a very long time. And it wasn't really until we went to that global preview event where actually we could see what the actual vision was. Because it's still very speculative. So, and the other thing I just want to add is for me personally, this is a very personal thing, I think Microsoft have earned our respect and a bit of trust to actually realise, okay, they've announced something.
Yep.
Just give them a minute, and they're going to tell us what we need to know. Yep. Because for the last 3 years, they've released, as they said in the seminar the other day, there's been 33 updates.
33 months, 33 updates. That was insane.
And they're not tiny updates. There's not just like a little patch here or there. They are significant changes to the sim that we've all been asking for. I'm not saying everything's been added because we've still been waiting for seasons, and that seems to kind of slipped into the next edition, which may or may not become backwards compatible. But in all honesty, I think we've had a really good run. I think the fact that they've announced it shows they are still committed. Mm-hmm. FSX was abandoned, and that meant a lot of things changed, whereas the new edition, more conversation, but the other thing to add, they came to the show, they're here, that's the main thing, they're over there right now, giant booth, and they still announced stuff here. They didn't announce or reveal the Ford, my brain's going too much.
The Ford Tri-Motor.
That's it.
Yep.
They announced that here. They said it's a celebration, it's going to be free for a week. So they did still bring some reveals to the show. It wasn't the big reveal, but they still brought something.
But they still brought something, and having them be part of us and actually sitting down. And as Callum just said, they're just behind us. Their booth literally takes up half the showroom floor. Like, it is insane. And watching so many of our newer generation, because it's so important to bring new generations and the younger generations into our hobby. And I really see it. And I love the way you put it, Callum, with, Microsoft Flight Simulator has made it accessible to a newer generation. Will they stay in MSFS? Will they stay in simming? Maybe not. But they'll get a try and go, you know what? I want to do more combat. I want to do, more helicopters, or I want to do more systems-related content, and they will gravitate to one of the other platforms and all the other things that come in the future. So thanks very much for sharing that. So around that. So thank you so much for your thoughts today, Callum. It's been great seeing you, and it's been great being able to do this. It's as I said, it's nice being able to turn the tables on Callum every now and again. So there we go. Thanks very much for joining us, Callum. Great to see you, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. Don't forget, in case you were under a rock and you didn't know about FS Elite, FSElite.net, the most amazing, the best news website for the simulation community. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you on the next video.